And I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Mrs. Reyes,
Yes.
Mrs. Soshenek,
Here.
Mr. Saniceros,
Here.
Mrs. Contreras,
Here.
Mrs. Barnett.
Here.
This time we'll have Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I'd call for a moment of silence, and it's a good time to turn down your cell phone. Thank you. I do understand we have calls to the public, is that correct? Thank you. So at this time, I'd like to call up Cassandra Lockhart, please. Is that right? Yeah. While you're coming up to the podium, I'm just going to remind everyone that in order to allow time for everyone to participate, comments should be limited to 3 minutes. No disparagement, name-calling, personal attacks upon board members, staff personnel, or other persons in attendance or absent will be permitted by individuals who address the board. In addition, questions or comments on matters that are currently under legal review will not be accepted. Citizens are directed to other governing board policies for disposition of legitimate complaints, including those involving personnel. Thank you for being here, and we'll let you get started. And we'll start our 3 minutes now, if we may.
Introduce yourself.
Please.
I got it. I wrote everything down this time. Good evening, President Reyes, Governing Board, Dr. Freeman, and our executive leadership team. I'm Cassandra Lockhart, President of the Littleton Education Association. I'm a 7th and 8th grade history teacher, 7th grade science teacher, and coding teacher at Littleton STEM Academy. We recognize that opening a new school is a triumph. Our district and our community is growing, and that's very exciting for all of us. We're grateful that the district is taking opportunity to support our communities by trying to ensure fully staffed schools. And as we all know, the teacher shortage around the nation is concerning, and in Arizona, it's becoming dire. And as such, modern problems are going to require modern solutions. Currently, our district and our board, we're considering a third party to staff our new Lakin Prep Academy. And I feel that there are some concerns as you guys look at the contract and consider this partnership that we would like for you to weigh as you peruse the contract. I've outlined 5 for the sake of brevity. We recognize the board meetings are public, and thus the public should know about the possibility of this contract and partnership. However, how much review, surveying, discussion was done with key stakeholders in the community, parents, teachers, etc. What pool of teachers will Third Future be hiring from? Are they hiring from the same pool that we're looking at? Are we then in direct competition for the same shrinking pool of teachers? How does their compensation and benefits compare to our own? And which leads to the question, will there be non-compete clauses in our contracts, not theirs? I'm not overly concerned about them right now. And then how will this impact our working conditions here at Littleton? Are the teachers that Third Future would bring on and hire, are they going to be as highly qualified as the ones that you currently have in our district? Will our students all have a highly qualified educator in this partner school? How are we to ensure equity of school materials and services for all campuses? Are we providing Third Future the same materials we're using? Are they providing their own? Are they providing the same services that we provide? Are we looking at inequitable classrooms with this partnership? I'm sure that there are more concerns that can and should be addressed, but I do ask the board can weigh our concerns as you guys move forward looking at this partnership. And that Third Future provides more public insight into their operations and how they will meet the expectations, the culture, the values, and the vision that we hold here at Littleton versus what they think they're going to bring. And thank you for your attention, your time, and your consideration this evening.
Thank you. Next, please remember the 3-minute limit rule that I read earlier, and I will ask Christine Roberts, please.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Kristen Roberts.
I am here to speak on the potential partnership between the district and Third Future. I am a public school teacher in a nearby district, and I know firsthand how challenging the problems that we're facing in public education are. I am really grateful to you all for your willingness to take on the often thankless task of school leadership, especially in the face of everything that's happened in our state with the lack of funding and the teacher retention crisis. I know these problems are real and there are no easy solutions. I want to share with you an experience I had in 2019. Our school experienced something really similar to the current situation here in this community. My colleagues and I were told that a charter was planning a partnership with our school. They promised benefits to our campus, but our community started asking many questions, much like we've started to hear tonight. And as we started to ask questions, the facts, or what we were being told were facts, started to change. And it became clear that what was promised was nowhere near what we were being offered. So thankfully, our board and our district leaders chose not to proceed with this, and our community was spared. But I would like to note that this charter is associated with leaders who are involved in the partnership being proposed tonight. Typically, these sort of arrangements are promoted by those who would like to privatize education. I truly believe that this board and the Littleton leaders are supportive of public schools, and I know you guys care about the community and the students and the families that you serve here. But at this time, the terms of this partnership, the reputation of the third parties involved, and the lack of rigorous community outreach regarding this issue are very worrisome. The Littleton community has entrusted this board with the precious responsibility to make decisions and solve problems for our kids and for the future of our community and neighborhoods. What evidence do we have that Third Future would be able to solve or even help the staffing crisis? Will the teachers they bring in be appropriately certified? What assurances will parents have that their curriculum will be viable and appropriate for Littleton students? How do we know that the sort of discipline that they use will be aligned with the values of the board and the community? When families have questions, will you, who've been elected to advocate for them, be able to address those concerns, or will you have to hand them off to a third party? I could go on, but I know my time is limited. One more question: what measures will be implemented to protect against any financial misdeeds? I want to state again that I know your jobs are challenging, and the problems you face are beyond difficult. I would ask that you step into your own leadership, and please do not abdicate the responsibility the community has given you to take care of Littleton students. At the very least, please delay this deal until community questions have been answered.
So again, recognizing the 3-minute limit, I will call
Lisa Sun.
thank you. Lisa Sun? Thank you.
Good evening, Littleton members. My name is Representative Lisa Sun, and I represent LD 22. And I'd like to address the board with this statement. I am strongly declaring that all members of this board should vote against this motion tonight. Creating a charter school is not in the best interest of this district's parents, children, and families. This should be a public district school that actively serves the community and provides a quality education. Charter schools are run by for-profit corporations. This board will have no jurisdiction, and the school will not have the protections in place by existing public policy concerning privacy, curriculum, or other facets of education. There will be no financial oversight or transparency. This district's tax dollars will go towards funding it straight into the pockets of private companies. It's absolutely absurd to siphon public funds in this way for a company with no public accountability. It is wrong for this district and wrong for these families. Voting for this measure will show everyone here tonight that you value the interests of private corporations over the needs of this community. Again, for this reason, I am strongly encouraging you to do the right thing, to vote against, to make this a public district school. Thank you.
Again, recognizing the 3-minute limit, I will call,
Raquel Manamani.
M-A-M, it looks like A-N-I. And I believe that's Raquel. Did I butcher that, or? That's okay. Sorry, I apologize. If you'll introduce yourself, we'll get it right.
My name is Raquel Mamani. I am a teacher, I'm a mom, and I'm a public school advocate. And I'm a proud product of Arizona Public Schools. And I came out here today to talk to you about the problems that we see with this partnership. There are so many questions that I have that I don't even know where to start. So I'm just here to make sure that you all know that there are questions and that these questions need to be answered before a decision should be made. Like I said, I'm in on my spare time when I'm not teaching, I'm advocating for public schools. And I make it a point to make sure what's happening in my home district as well as our rural school districts and school districts, even in my hometown of Nogales, Arizona. And I didn't even know what was happening here. And so there are just so many questions. I'm gonna just go over a few of them. I know I heard a little bit about it, but I would like to know more about what type of communication has been held with stakeholders, specifically the families with school-age children in this area. There is very little information about this proposed partnership in the district website, and so I'm just wondering where there are plans and where there are more details about this. The only information I've been able to find about this proposed partnership is deep within the board documents, and these documents only include either an overview or a proposal or questions, asked by board members. Is there any place that we can look at particulars of the proposed partnership in greater detail, definitely before a decision is made? I look at some other questions that come up about hiring certified teachers. We all know we're in a national teacher shortage. I'd like to know where these teachers are going to come from. Arizona is in a teacher shortage, and we know nationally there is an issue with that. So I know charter schools have more leeway on that and don't really need to have certified teachers. So I would like to know what kind of assurances are going to be made there. Would the agreement allow Third Futures to come back and ask for more money or major changes in the agreement? What assurances are they giving you of not being able or doing that? What's the curriculum going to be used? Again, the discipline. So I think there's just basically so many questions that I definitely ask for you, for the board, to take the time and not rush a decision and do what's best for the Littleton Elementary School District community. And I really thank you for letting me speak and taking the time. And I beg that you vote no, or at least make sure that you have all of these questions answered. I work in a district that has partnered with charters, and the deal didn't turn out to be what they had expected. So I just want to warn you all on that. Thanks.
So next, we have Alicia Lucas. And please remember the 3-minute rule. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for letting me speak. My name is Alicia Lucas. I am an area public school teacher, and I recently found out about this proposed partnership. I live nearby, and I am aligned as well with Save Our Schools, because I know that when these types of actions impact one set of community schools, there are ripple effects that can transpire in other districts, and I want to make sure that we remain as a strong public school supported area. And I know that public schools have a lot of those protections in place, that parents know that they're going to get a quality education with certified teachers. The partnership with Third Futures, I understand we are at a situation where I personally work in my school where we have hired teachers from other countries, certified teachers from other countries to fill unfilled positions. So I know that there are a lot of strategies out there that districts are looking to implement to alleviate a lot of the stress to staff schools. I am really doubtful, however, that the Third Future solution is going to be that solution for you. I did a little research, a little reading about Third Futures, and the person who is in charge of that organization was in a previous position, a district superintendent in Dallas, and he when he started his tenure, he was trained in a specific philosophy. There was a lot of disruption with that model. And in that particular, it was Dallas Independent School District. They had record levels of teachers turning over, turnover up to 22%, which was their typical was about 8 to 12% during his tenure. So that statistic really stuck out to me. And so after he was there with the district for 3 years, and then he went on to form Third Futures. And they have now operated a handful of schools in Colorado and a few in Texas. And I was looking over some of the reviews on Indeed and Glassdoor about working for Third Futures. And again, this is going to be the employer of the teachers that you are going to try to attract and keep and retain to educate the kids here. And one of the reviews, which was really indicative of many of the reviews, talked about toxic environments. The job offers more money maybe than the other schools in the area, but it's not worth it. They lost half of their employees in 6 months. This is one of the Texas charters, by the way, that was, and this review is from a month ago, dated February 27th. 6 months, so losing more than half of your employees 6 months into the school year due to resignations or terminations is not indicative of a healthy workplace.
I apologize, ma'am, it is now 3 minutes.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome, thank you. Looks like it goes to Mr. French, and it is an action item.
Madam President, members of the governing board, Dr. Freeman, Littleton community, this evening the administration is asking that the board approve the medical benefits and the pharmacy spends that we brought to the board last meeting. If you'd like, I'd be happy to go over the worksheet again. If not, just ask that the board approve the benefit renewal rates for FY24.
Is there questions from the board? Did you have any? Hearing none, I know this was presented at our last meeting, so at that point, there does not appear to be questions, so I'll ask for a motion.
I move that we approve the employee benefits renewal for fiscal year 2023-2024.
I'll need a second.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion will pass. Thank you. At this time, we'll turn it over for job description discussion with Dr. Haid.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Tonight is a preview of some of the human resources items that could come before the board for consideration in the upcoming months. As you have seen in the board updates over the past year, the Human Resources Department has had a difficult time recruiting employees due to wage constraints. While we are appreciative of the board's support in their consideration of wages and salary increases every year, we as a district continue to be bound by budget constraints due to inadequate funding by the legislature. Some of the issues that pose additional obstacles with the availability of candidates are the recent minimum wage increases, cost of living increases that far exceed what our budget can absorb, and the private sector competition, which has created additional difficulties that cannot be addressed simply through working conditions and positive culture. We are actively working to compare our salaries and wages with the surrounding West Valley districts, who are our biggest competitors. so that we can bring forward recommendations to you for pay grade adjustments and/or wage increases, budget permitting, of course. Some of the positions currently under review due to high market competition are teachers, bus drivers, IT techs, custodians, and administrative assistants. We are re-examining job descriptions so that they more accurately reflect the duties of employees. We're looking at the calendar assignments for each position, which has been an issue brought before the LEAP committee. This is an activity that we do annually, however, this year it is on a much larger scale. We are collecting data on the number of applicants that apply for positions in the district, are ultimately selected for interviews, and then the number of offers we make that are both accepted and declined, which is growing in number due to the wage. LEAP and other groups that are impacted by possible changes will be discussing these challenges which support our value of collaboration. The purpose of the discussion tonight is to inform the board that we are actively working on solutions to try and fill open positions. I would welcome any comments or questions that you have at this time, and this will return as discussion at least one more time in March, and then possibly be an action item in April as we come closer to some completion of other tasks.
Is there discussion or questions on the item?
I just don't know this, but what is the starting wage for a teacher in our district?
Member Cisneros, that information is available on the website. I do not recall it off the top of my head. It's on our website, but we can put it in the board update on Friday, the link.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
And I had just one question. When this information will come back with more recommendations or whatever it's going to look like, are you looking at redoing job descriptions and attaching a different perhaps wage scale and falling in a different step grade? Is that what we're going to be looking at?
President Reyes, yes. Some of our job descriptions were prior to all of the technology uses that we have today. I can give you an example of like our library clerks. They're really not just people who check out books anymore. They're responsible for our devices that we deliver curriculum on, and they work with students on a variety of matters. We also have support for them in our digital learning leaders. However, those types of things we need to determine to more accurately describe and build upon the descriptions that we already have. And yes, we have brought wage adjustments as in pay grades forward before. We may ask for that as well.
Do you do salary surveys when you do it, meaning you go to other districts and do salary comparisons when you're doing this?
President Reyes, members of the board, yes, we do. We actually, as I said, the West Valley districts are our biggest competitors, and we pull not only from the West Valley, but also bleeding into Phoenix, and then a little bit on the other west side, so that we can remain competitive. And we have in the past. There are some districts that are exceeding the raises that we've been able to give, and those are some of the issues that we have talked to and our teachers have brought forth before us, and we have discussed with them. Absolutely.
Looks like you have item 8 as well.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Tonight, our annual item of consideration of contract and wage statement language, as approved tonight, those under teacher contracts will have them issued tomorrow as the first, and we're a little bit late, but contract language is exactly the same as it has been in prior years, with the exception of one piece that was added for the AEL. Now, we have had that resolved for this year, but going forward it may not be, and so our attorney has recommended that this language be inserted, but there are no significant changes other than the date.
The date of?
The school year, 23-24. And we're asking for a motion of approval this evening.
Questions?
Oh, I had one.
Yes, sir.
Do we know when we will have the results of how many of our teachers are returning this year?
Member Cisneros and members of the board, we actually will send out in the board update on Friday. We will give you weekly numbers. There's a contract signing incentive that the board has approved in previous years, so we have a good idea of how many teacher contracts will be returned by the end of 5 days. So this Friday will not really be a significant number. It'll be kind of a teaser, but next week you'll have a significant number and an idea of how many will be returning. Yes.
With that, if there's no more questions, I'll ask for a motion.
I move that the governing board approve contract and wage statement language for fiscal year 2023-2024.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call. All in favor?
Aye.
Any disapprovals? Hearing none, the motion will pass. And
Keep us on our toes or something?
you guys did great. You were all awake. I may not have been, but you were. Thank you. Next, Dr. Hayde, it looks like you're up again for employment and renewal.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Tonight, we're asking for the renewal of employment of certified and professional staff for fiscal year 23-24. In the past, there are some people who are working on certification issues that may not be on this list, but they have been spoken to, or some people who are in the process of having some other issues with reemployment. So you will see this in the future on the consent agenda. However, this evening, all of the names that we have added, we're asking you to approve so that we may issue contracts this month.
Thank you. Is there questions on item 9? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion.
I move that the governing board approve employment and issuance of contracts for certified staff, psychologists, registered nurses, social workers, and professional staff for the 2023-2024 school year.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any disapprovals? Hearing none, motion will pass. Thank you. Dr. Hayde, it's back to you.
Madam President, members of the board, this evening, the instructional calendars for fiscal year 23-24 and 24-25 are coming before you for action. We reviewed this at the last meeting and had no additional questions or input after the item was reviewed. And so we're asking you to approve the 2-year instructional calendars at this time.
Thank you. I know we did discuss this quite at length at our last board meeting. Is there additional questions? All right, then I'll ask for a motion. Did you have a question?
No.
Okay.
It's not me this time.
Okay. Thank you.
I move the governing board approve the employment and insurance of contracts for certified staff.
Yeah,
Oh, calendars. Oh my gosh. Oh my God, we are sorry. Okay, I move the governing board approve the Littleton ESD instructional calendar for fiscal year 2023, 2024, and 2024 and 2025.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you need a second?
I'll second.
Oh, I did. Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing any disapprovals? Hearing none, the motion will pass. Thank you. We're moving on to Dr. Hayde, the staff work calendars for fiscal year.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Again, this item was discussed at the last meeting, the staff work calendars for fiscal year 23-24 with no significant changes outside of the leap year, and we're asking for approval this evening.
Thank you. This also was brought to the board. Is there questions on item 11? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion.
I move that we approve the Littleton School Work Calendar fiscal year 2023, as well as 24-25.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Just 1 year.
It's 23, yeah. Mm-hmm. It does say 2, though, just for correction, but it is just for the 23-24. Okay.
I will second.
Thank you. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any disapprovals? Hearing none, we did approve the calendar for 23-24. Moving on to Ms. Garrison.
Thank you, Madam President, governing board members. Based on the discussion of the board at the last meeting, the management team is recommending 2 things at this time. The first is two staggered start times. The reduction in start times is meant to support after-school activities such as tutoring, professional development, and athletics, and this recommendation was supported by 80% of the staff who took the recent survey that we discussed last time. Currently, we have a 90-minute time from the time our first school dismisses until our last school does, and the current start times are 7:20, 8 o'clock, and 8:40. The two proposed times are 7:30 and 8:25. So the new times are within the current window. I wanted to point that out to you with the idea of minimizing the change. And I thought it was important that you know the length of day will remain at 7 hours, meaning no change in instructional minutes. After consideration for the number of students currently riding and the number of buses needed to transport the students, the recommendation is to pair the school as follows. It's on your screen, but we're proposing Country Place Leadership Academy, Lakin Prep Academy, Littleton STEM Academy, and Trace Wheel Service Academy will be our early schools, and the school hours would be from 7:30 to 2:30. The second start time would be Collier Business Academy, Estrella Vista STEM Academy, Fine Arts Academy, and Quinton STEM Academy, and they would be starting at 8:25 and go to 3:25. So in this motion, you could include the change to transportation. You could also include the change to transportation restrictions. In order for the new start and stop times to work, we're proposing that there be some new restrictions. We are proposing that the buses for Country Place, Lakin, and Trace Wheels would not go north of Van Buren, and transportation would not be provided to Collier and Fine Arts for families living south of State Route 40. So what we're doing is we're shrinking the boundaries from the north to go to the south schools and from the south to go to the north schools. For those of you who are not familiar with the plan for State Route 30, it's on the screen. The light blue highlighted line shows the path as it moves east to west and kind of goes about a quarter mile above and below Southern as it moves. So that's our southern boundary that we're looking at moving up a little bit, and the northern boundary would be Van Buren. I think it's also important to note that just like our existing boundaries, this does not mean children from the area could not attend those schools. It simply means they would have to have their own transportation if they were going to go there. So we have some existing restrictions. We're just trying to tighten it up to make the two dismissal times work. Okay. At this time, administration is not recommending any changes to the school choice enrollment procedures. You guys talked about that last time. The school week calendar or the grade level configuration of the schools. So there's a recommended motion to cover only those two things, the start and stop time and the transportation corridor boundaries. In the motion, the recommended motion is there should you decide to do so. Questions?
Questions? I have one. I know we already have restrictions in place, but we're tightening up just a little bit
Right.
more. Do you know how many families this will involve with the extra tightening?
Madam
of the rules?
President, Governing Board, the change to the north affects 37 students. The change to the south affects 15.
15 or 50?
15, 1-5.
Thank you.
And transportation and Dr. Freeman, we're moving incrementally about a street at a time to see the minimum impact we could have and still make the turnaround time reduced.
Any other questions?
I have one more. So does that mean that certain families will, if a family is no longer in the boundary of the school for transportation that they've been going to, are we going to alert them?
Member Reyes, Member Sinisteros, absolutely.
Okay.
If we were discussing personal phone calls, school choice, after you set the times tonight, school choice is going to open, and we're asking people for their first and second choice, and we'll do a communications splatter about that starting tomorrow morning. Okay. Yes. Right. I did say that.
Heard the information. I'll need a motion.
I move the governing board approve the changes to school start times and transportation corridors as recommended in the details below.
I'll second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, motion will pass. Next, it looks like you're up again, Ms. Garrison, for the readings.
Thank you very much. Tonight I have first reading of policy JFABDA, admission of students in foster care. Recommended changes are outlined on the attached document and are recommended to conform to the law. Schools, child welfare agencies, and the ADE work together to determine the best placement for a student while they are in foster care, and language was added to this policy to clarify, basically what the changes do is clarify the definition of children in foster care and what the school of origin is. That's all it really did. Now, the related regulation is also there. It's been attached to the next item. In this one, the language has been updated to mirror the policy. I'll give Jim a second to open that, because on pages 2 and 3, you'll see additions, and really what this is about is details of what we call a best interest determination, or as we call it, a bid meeting. The purpose of a bid meeting is to determine, for when a student is in foster care, whether a student should remain in the school they were attending when they went into DCS custody, or if a change is more appropriate. This process is a joint effort during which our point of contact meets with child welfare agencies and the child to determine the best educational setting. The factors that could be considered are found on page 2 and 3. It's pretty extensive there. And they could include things like the preference of a child or the child's parents, the child's attachment to the school, the placement of the siblings, the availability of the specific services individual students need, and maybe the length of a commute. Those are the highlights of what they added to that particular regulation. Any questions? Okay, then I'll go right to the next one, is an exhibit, Exhibit JHDEB. A statement has been added to this form to avoid the potential of a HIPAA violation. You'll see this underlined sentence there. That's the only thing that was changed. It now indicates that the disclosure to a parent or guardian is permitted because it is requested by a protected party. So it's just a HIPAA statement that was inserted into this exhibit. Any questions? Okay, and the last exhibit I have for you tonight is KBEC. It's a form that is to be used when parents want to request information. It was a couple months ago. Very recently, I brought you policy KB. This exhibit was just updated to the related policy, and now it really is just the form to process and track requests so that we do conform with the policy. Any questions on that? Okay, so you can expect to see the policy, which was the first one I covered today, at the next meeting. It's a first read, so no action will be taken.
Thank you. Dr. Freeman, we're turning it over to you for discussion regarding the program and resource calendar planning.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. So we go through this process leading into each spring as the board's beginning to make decisions about budget and program for the coming year, to keep track of everything that's happening. And we are, after today, leaving the first page on February 28th. Those are the items being considered, and moving to the second page. For those who are new to our meetings, the top row is bulleted items for the board. D is for discussion, A is for action. If there's a PA, it says possible action. If you notice down on March 21st at the very last thing is the instructional services contract possible action. So if the board were to table that tonight, we still have the potential for that to be considered in March. And the other is, if you look at the bottom of row 2, international teacher recruiting, that's I for information. And the bottom row that's in black is the work that staff is working on in between and to prepare for meetings, so the board knows what work is happening in the district to go along with those things. And we've been doing this calendar planning for several years, maybe more than 10. So that as items come to the board in a series, through a series of meetings, they know what's happening now and what's coming forward. For other people in the audience who are new to this planning, For instance, I would point out at the top of March 21st is salary schedules for discussion. And at that point, staff would be prepared to talk about teacher wage history. But for those who don't know, teacher wage history is required to be on our website. There's a link right there. It takes you to the history and all the details of teacher salaries. And I hope it's easy for people to find. But the pattern is that the board discusses it at one meeting before they take action, which was true a lot of the action items tonight. The board had seen them before, so that they have ample time to examine, discuss, and even let us know if there's further questions or things aren't clear. And so the promise we made to all of you is that from the first draft to the draft that we're on today, if there's any changes, we'd be sure to make you aware of those. And so on March 21st coming up, we reconciled the items for tonight's meeting, and clarifying the information on the international teachers. We added discussion on stipend, addendum, and incentives to make sure that you'll have an opportunity to discuss that before action would be needed in April. We have taken open enrollment and capacity from February and moved it to March to be to be mindful of what the configuration of schools would be, so we can set capacity and stay in compliance with that statute. Then benefits renewal, potential action. We had that as a potential item for next month if we weren't able to resolve it this month. So we've taken that off because of the work staff did with the trust to make those adjustments discussed in the plan last time, and try to make the major medical insurance increment and its impact on the budget manageable. Salary schedules. We had thought that we might go over those tonight, but because of some of the research and work we're doing in comparison to other districts, we're going to bring that up after we get back from spring break. And transportation corridors, we were able to get done tonight. We think we've minimized a lot of the impact on that. And changes to policy, which you've discussed tonight, would be taken on action on second reading in March. Then in April, we're going to try to continue the discussion on international teacher recruiting, and we hope that the recommended changes to job descriptions will be ready for your action. And we had originally planned in April an update on student agency equity character development, but we'd like to do that in June when the agenda's not so crowded. It's really not an action item, it's an update report. And so we've pushed that back a little bit to allow more time for discussion of other things that have action. Those are just the changes on this page that we made so far, but I hope you can see how these things fit together in a sequential fashion, so you have time to review and consider those. And if we make changes again, we'll bring it back again.
Thank you. At this time, we are going to take a recess to executive session for legal advice. Yeah. Hard to read it.
It's the two reasons.
Yeah. So the governing board may recess or will recess into executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A3 and 4 to receive legal advice and providing direction to the attorney for the public body regarding a proposed instructional partnership contract with OP for instructional services at Lincoln Prep Academy for fiscal year '24. That has been read. Do I need a motion? Yes, so I'm asking for a motion.
The governing board convene into executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A3 and 4 to receive legal advice and provide direction to the attorney for the public body regarding proposed instructional partnership contract with OP for instructional services at Lincoln Prep Academy for fiscal year '24.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No nays. We'll go into executive session. Today. So I'm just letting you know that we are going into executive session. We will come out and discuss, but there is a possibility there'll be no outcome tonight. So you're welcome to continue to stay. But that, I just wanted to let you know that. So the board may not make a decision today.
This will be up on the video monitor for YouTube until you come back, and then we'll reconvene with the meeting for the final item and adjournment.
Right.
So if you're watching on YouTube, that's your show.
So for those at home watching on YouTube, he was addressing that specific statement to you, letting you know that stay tuned if you want to come back and sit tight while we move into executive session. All right, the governing board will now convene back into regular session at 8:37. Thank you all for staying. We realize it's getting late, but we appreciate you being here, so thank you for doing that. At this time, we're on item 16, which is the instructional partnership contract. At this point, I'd ask the governing board to discuss and give recommendations regarding the instructional partnership contract with OP, the third future schools with instructional services at Lincoln Preparatory Academy. So at this point, I'm going to open it up to the board for conversations.
First, I want to thank all the people who, one, spoke out today or who have reached out to me within the past week to kind of give me their point of view. That is something that we've been talking about this for a long time. We as a board have been talking about this since April, and I kept waiting for someone to reach out to me. Like, I kind of was like, someone should reach out to me, and I've started asking people, and then it felt like this week I was starting to get the feedback I needed. So I do want to say thank you. I am glad that we went through this process. I am one of those people that feel like you need to explore all avenues to find the best thing for your students. And you need to know what that other option would be. So I'm glad we pursued all options. Change is hard, and not knowing everything is hard. So going through this process and looking at the contract allowed me to truly see all the nitty-gritty details as much as we could. I personally don't feel that this contract fits the climate and culture that we have in the Littleton community. And so my personal feeling is I don't really want to pursue this further.
Thank you. Next.
First and foremost, thank you all for coming out tonight. I know that there are so many things to do, and for you all to sit here shows the level of dedication you have for our students, and that's so important. I think we're all unified, regardless of how we feel, regardless of our background, our socioeconomic, anything. We love our children, and we want the very, very best for them. We have vested interests. Like Amy, I received a series of calls this couple days in reference to the concerns of the community for our students. Having the opportunity to review this contract, first, I want to say, Ms. Jennifer, you did an amazing job. It shows your level of dedication, so thank you so much. But having the opportunity to review the contract, like Amy, I do not feel comfortable moving forward.
Thank you.
I'll go. Sorry. Yeah, I would say, reminiscing them from the information that was provided in this information that was provided, I just think from a student perspective, I just don't think as a student I'd be comfortable being in a facility that was presented to us this evening, and with that, I don't feel comfortable moving forward with the proposal.
Thank you. Sarah?
So I'm going to do my best without the voice. I want to thank Jennifer as well for all of her hard work on the contract. When I made the choice to join the board, I made the commitment for the community, for my students, for my own children. In looking at the contract, and I know there was a lot of questions, there's a lot of the unknown, but I just don't feel, again, just echoing what Amy said, it just doesn't, and even what Member Siniceros and Member Barnett mentioned, it just doesn't go with the climate and the culture and the vision of Littleton. So I also don't feel comfortable moving forward as well.
Thank you. So thank you again for the history lesson on the contract. That is definitely took some work and time, so thank you. Yes.
As counsel, I would suggest, given the discussion that the board has had on the dais, that a motion be made to decline to enter into the contract with Third Futures and to direct the district administration to cancel the procurement.
Thank you. So with that, I will then take a motion based on the board's direction, to decline at this time to pursue the contract and request that we cancel the procurement so that this is now considered a done deal from our perspective. That is my motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing any nays? No nays. Let the record show that at this point, we are declining to pursue contract and ask the procurement also be canceled. With that, it does appear that that is the last action item. So at this point, I will call for a motion for adjournment.
And remind people we're not second Tuesday,
And remind people we're not second Tuesday,
it'll be spring break.
because it'll be spring break.
I move that we adjourn at 8:43.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call. Anyone want to not leave? I guess that means yes. Thank you.
Circulate those papers?
Yeah.
Okay.